Hey everybody, Brian here from A Dinner and a Show. Happy New Year, and I hope that you guys had a great time with your friends and family and loved ones. And so 2018 has been a great year, movie wise and everything else. It's been I had Movie Pass, so for a good half of the year, and that gave me the opportunity to watch a ton of movies. I don't have it anymore because all the drama and them losing a bunch of money and everything like that. So it's yeah, they just haven't really made a lot of money. Excuse me as I'm trying to adjust the camera. You can see all the board games I have, and me trying to be comfortable on my couch. Yeah, let me adjust that a little more. Yeah, there we go. We can do that. Okay. So, of course, with you may like a bunch of movies, but um, the year there were a lot of just kind of honorable mention or meh movies. I don't hate all of these movies. Some of them were totally fine, and I had a good time at the movies, and probably even gave them a high five, a little too liberally probably, but they they just were to me weren't worthy enough to be in my even my honorable mentions list for the top movies of 2018. So I will share that now. So I will go with so for the honorable mention in Mez of 2018. The one I have on my list first was I Can Only Imagine. Um, this is a faith-based movie that came out in April, and it tells the story of how that song of the same name became so popular, and how Bart came up with that song. He came from an abusive family. His dad was very emotionally and physically abusive to him, and and he was able to express his feelings through music and things like that. And he was through just a huge miraculous story, he was able to um, reconcile with his dad and build a relationship with him. And he actually left when his dad died. They were on very good terms, and Bart loved his dad, and he wanted to be just like him when he grew up. Because his dad found God, and he turned his life totally around. And so it was really great to see that. So I enjoyed the movie, but it still just was not like top material. I think that if these guys, uh, I think just maybe a couple more movies of experience, they might come up with a faith-based movie that is actually really good. Annihilation. This movie was just kind of slow-paced and a little boring to me. I know that there's some sort of deeper uh, message behind it, but I think the how they went about it was, just not the best. Definitely a beautiful movie, even terrifying at points. There was one scene in particular where there's like this sort of bear-like creature that imitates the voice of one of the dead explorers. That really freaked me out. But it just kind of, it was just overall confusing, and maybe that's just me and my taste in movies, but it kind of reminded me of 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it's very artsy, but overall it's confusing. And if you are confusing your audience, it's like, well, either we're too stupid, or you failed in executing your message. So I would like to say the latter. And then Tomb Raider, fun movie. Just there are a lot of plot holes, and it just um, yeah, just a lot of plot holes and editing choices that kind of hindered the movie experience for me. I think this was way better than the other Tomb Raider movies that came out in the early 2000s with Angelina Jolie. Alicia Vikander, I think, was a very good choice to be the new Lara Croft. And if they make another movie, I really hope that they kind of fix what they sort of messed up there. I think that they love what they're doing, and I think they love the story of Lara Croft. I just think that people are having a hard time executing that. Then there's Hereditary. Scary build-up, very intense at the end, but what in the heck was that ending? And the build-up it's a slow burn. I think some of it just didn't really make a whole lot of sense. So and then the kid was, oh my gosh, was annoying as all get out. The not the girl, it was the boy. The boy was annoying. Um, and then Deadpool 2. This is probably one of my highest movies on this meh list, because I actually really laughed really hard at this movie and had a really good time at it. I just think there were just so many good movies this year that this ended up in the honorable mention. This kind of the meh honorable mention list. Good movie, just wasn't quite up there. And then there's the one that I really hoped wouldn't make it on this list, but it did. A Solo, a Star Wars story. This movie was kind of confusing. There's a lot of drama behind it on just why it was made, the director's being fired, hiring Ron Howard, and him trying to reshoot the movie. And I think for what they did, it was fine. I had a good time. I even bought the 4K, or I got the 4K for Christmas. Still want it in my Star Wars collection. But it just was, just not the best Star Wars movie. It was certainly better than most of the prequels, like 1 and 2. I kind of prefer. I like 3, but yeah, just kind of weird. There a lot of stuff that just didn't make sense, and it just was a movie that didn't really need to be made. Everyone wanted the Obi-Wan movie, and Disney didn't want to make that movie. And then I'm like, okay, they own Star Wars, they can do what they want, but don't expect everyone to flock to your movie if no one really was going. If the fans didn't really want the movie, so that was just kind of me. For what it was fine, but I wish it was better. It's Star Wars after all. Ocean's 8, good acting. It's there was no risk behind the. I felt no risk or worry for the characters as they were stealing. It just kind of was like they either were just so good that they, just got through all the little, kinks in their plan and were able to just, steal everything just fine. So, there was just there's no anticipation. I'm not worried, that they're not going to finish it. I want a heist movie where they fail the mission. I think that would be kind of fun to do. But anyway, it is what it is, and it was all right. It wasn't terrible. I think a lot of people compared it to Ghostbusters since it was an all-female cast, but this one, Ocean's 8 was a lot better, and I think it had a lot more homage to the source material. That wasn't like, hey, you see the reference and stuff like that. They mentioned Danny Ocean, but like several times, but that's kind of it. And there's a few cameos from the older Ocean's movies, but they did it right. They had those characters that were cameoed in from the previous movies. They actually played the characters that they played in the previous characters. It's not like the old the new Ghostbusters reboot where Bill Murray and Ernie Hudson and Dan Aykroyd, they play like totally different characters instead of their Ghostbusters counterparts. I'm just like, why did you do that? So it's just so at least Ocean's 8 was smart in that end, but for everything else it just kind of was meh. Uncle Drew. This movie was actually pretty funny. I laughed a lot at this. It was it was definitely stupid. Just a bunch of old guys that are playing as if they're 22. But you kind of expected that. It was a movie made by Pepsi Studios, and the makeup was awful. But it was just funny. I enjoyed the movie. It was goofy. It was from the Uncle Drew commercials, and they thought it was so popular they make a movie out of it. And you know what? They did, and it wasn't bad. So I'm glad. The next one is The Meg. Also a kind of a fun, dumb popcorn movie where you're just big giant shark eating another big giant shark and terrorizing the beach. So, and Jason Statham, running from sharks. It's kind of funny. So in that sense, I had a good time watching the movie. I pretty much got what I expected, a pretty dumb movie, but it was an enjoyable dumb movie. And it was a movie that watching it in the IMAX was really good. Because, it's a big shark. You need a big screen for that thing. Next movie is Christopher Robin. Um, this was a delightful movie. Kind of harkened back to my childhood of Winnie the Pooh. Um, I think there were just some aspects of it that I didn't really care about, like the wife, just being so bent out of shape about him going, having to work and saving his employees from going out of business. He's like, oh, why don't you go to the cottage, dear? Spend time with your family. You're missing out. And I was like, well, he can do that later because he's about to get fired if he doesn't lose it, if he, messes this up. So, anyway, there was just that, and that annoyed me to no end. Um, and I exaggerate on that. It was annoying. Um, but I mean, it ended up being nice and happy, and the stuffed animals coming to life was not a problem to me. I found Pooh quite an enjoyable character. He was a visually appealing character, and he was just pretty much great, almost just as I remembered him back in the day. Um, Teen Titans Go to the Movies, hilarious satire. Um, just I just think at the end I was just kind of like, I wouldn't watch it again. Um, I would just watch clips. They do have a really catchy song, upbeat, inspirational song about life, sung by Michael Bolton. Um, yeah, that was a pretty hilarious movie. Bohemian Rhapsody, um, also meh. I know a lot of critics are divided on this. Some hate it, some love it. I think there were a couple of critics I've read saying it was the best movie of the year or one of the best movies of the year. I think the lead actor that played Freddie Mercury nailed it. So terrific performances. Um, I just think that they strayed too far from the truth of what of Freddie Mercury's life and the career of Queen, the band. It just it took way too many liberties off of it. And yes, Queen, the band, was like the executive producers of this movie, where they helped, they were, consulting with it, but it's just way too far from the truth, So that when I got back, I was just like, no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. So, yeah, so there's that. Here's one that no one's probably ever heard of. More Than Funny, Everyone Has a Punchline. This is a Michael Jr. movie. So Michael Jr. is a very famous Christian comedian. He does play, and he's been on late night shows like Jimmy Kimmel, I think Jared Leto, and I think Comedy Central. So he's been on those shows, and he's funny. And I did laugh a lot in this, or laugh quite a few times in this movie. It's just that he recycled a lot of jokes that he's had, and so my favorite joke that he always does is he always has a theory that white people name their dogs after like with people names, and black people name their dogs you know from random objects like Coco or Snowflake or just something like that, or Bruce or Bub, or not Bruce is a person's name, but just something like that. And so it was really, so that's the joke, because there was one answer from an audience member that just cracked me up. It's like, what the heck is this? So there's that, but I think he just kind of whiplashed emotionally when he like switched to clips of like helping others out, which is amazing. He's using his talents to serve others. That's awesome, and I hope to do that too one day, or hope to do that just for the rest of my life. It's great. I just think that there was no preparation for it, no build up to it, and as soon as that clip was done, he just kind of like immediately switched back to his comedic routine. And I was like, I know. So that's why I just gave it the rating it was, and and I think there was some camera issues too. I guess he was filming it live, so you can't really do a whole lot with it. But I think that if the shot was bad, they could have left it out. The other was A Simple Favor, another good, clever movie. Same guy who directed Ghostbusters and Bridesmaids, I believe. Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively are in it. And the lead guy for Crazy Rich Asians as well. So, like I said, very good movie. A lot of plot twists and turns. It's based off a book. It just, again, I wouldn't watch it again. and that's kind of that's kind of it. You know, just like it's there, it's cool, but you know, overall, it's just uh, that was it for me. Okay, so here's another movie that is kind of high on my honorable mention meh list, but didn't quite make it. It's Ready Player One. That one was it was a lot of fun. It had a good amount of nostalgia. You have the Iron Giant. You have your horror movie kind of characters. You know, from Friday the 13th. You know, Jason Voorhees. You have Freddy Krueger. You have I said the Iron Giant. Yeah. Things from The Shining. You have just almost any uh, 80s reference is there, pretty much, and it's cool just to kind of be bombarded with all that. And even have Jurassic Park, that's early 90s, but still. Yeah, I mean, it's there and it's fun and it's cool, but I think beneath all that substance is just not much of a story, and the characters are kind of it kind of reminded me of the bad things about Avatar in just terms of how okay, you know, or how like kind of not much substance the story actually was. I love Avatar. I think it's a great movie. I haven't watched it in a long time, so maybe my opinion will change. But I do understand people's gripes about just a recycled story, not much into it, and I think Ready Player One suffers a little more from that because it's relying on the nostalgia to appease the audience a little too much. And then the last movie on my list is Unsane. It was an experimental film that pretty much was shot solely on an iPhone. I think they used just regular, audio equipment for film, but the fact that they just filmed this movie solely on an iPhone was pretty awesome, and just proof that no matter what if you want to be a filmmaker, you can make a movie. Use your phone and just get some editing software and edit it, color correct it. Get some good sound equipment, and you're good. So, it gave me hope. It gave me hope that I can make a movie pretty much with my Google Pixel 2 right now. It's not a plug. I'm not sponsored. It's just that's my phone, and I really like it. Uh, but yeah, so it was cool. Story itself was fine. A little creepy, actually a lot creepy. But yeah, I mean it is a horror film, really, sort of. After all. So yeah, those are all my honorable mention movies. Uh, so next up will be my top 10 best movies of 2018. So stay tuned for that. So I'm Brian, and I will see you at the movies.